Housekeepers who worked in casinos, hotels, what's the weirdest thing you walked into? A couple came to this luxury dude ranch I worked at and spent over $5,000 to stay there only to not come out of their room the entire time. Went in to clean the room when they left and saw incredibly expensive and open alcohol and boxes of toys around the room. On the bed they left a note that said enjoy. What? We threw out the toys. Who would use a used toy left by an unknown person? And got hammered that night. They didn't use the toys. They used the bottles. For real. The toys were still in the box. I worked in a casino where I watched a middle-aged man literally shake a solid turd down his pant leg, sit back down and continued on his machine. I turned around with backpack vacuum on and went to my lunch break. I didn't get paid enough to pick up strangers. Everyone knows you don't quit on a hot streak. Not me. But my friend from Ukraine worked at a crappy casino hotel in Wendover, Nevada, because they would sponsor his work visa. He wasn't a housekeeper but would have to do maintenance in rooms. He said one day he went to a room where the people had already checked out and there was a chicken in the room. Like a live chicken. Just chilling there. Maybe the story is funnier when he tells it with his accent. Why use chicken in room? Asterisk. I was a housekeeper at a dive of a hotel in Chico, CA in the late 90s. A week or so before a local homeless woman had stuck her arm in a tiger's cage, a circus that was traveling through town, and got mauled. That weekend I was cleaning rooms and knocked on the door of a room paid for by a local charity organization. It turned out the guest was in the middle of why time. Quickly realizing it wasn't a good time to clean the room, I said I would come back later. To my dismay, the woman opened the door and asked me to join her and her friend. I declined. She then reached out and grabbed me by the arm and tried to drag me in. Her arm was covered in bandages and lacerations. It was the woman who had been tiger mauled. I yanked my arm free and ran away. I'll never forget what her shredded bandage hand looked like. I worked for a hotel chain in Colorado and one day my co-worker and I went to strip a bed and the bed was full of oranges. The dresser oranges. Side table. Cans of mandarin oranges. Not exactly shocking or disgusting. But it was weird. Maybe they were doing a self-cleanse. Vitamin C in excess equals diarrhea. Alternatively, they could have been from an Asian country where mandarins specifically mean good luck or long life. Someone I know worked housekeeping at a casino. He walked in on a guy smearing over the walls with his bare hands. He was pissed that he lost money and thought he was justified to do it. Housekeeping called security. He was charged and banned. I guess the Eric Cartman method. It ain't gonna smell like a gun. Butters. I think about this question every time I go to Vegas. Vegas housekeeping would be the highest rated reality show ever. American Horror Story. Vegas housekeeping. This is related but not exactly the question. When my wife and I were looking at wedding venues, one we went to was a hotel. The event manager wanted to take us up and show us the honeymoon suite. She opened the door. And there were two old men, like 60s 70s, shirtless drinking vodka in the room. She was so extremely embarrassed and apologetic. She was very sweet too. But you could tell she was so mad at they screwed that up for her. We didn't choose the place, wasn't why. But I hadn't thought about that in a while. And figured someone else may get a kick out of it. I used to work in reservations in a big chain hotel in London. Housekeeping once told us there was one regular guest who used to always leave a single whole intact raw egg in the bed when they checked out. Nobody ever figured out why or where on earth they got that single raw egg in the middle of central London. Grocery stores aren't frequent in the area and they certainly don't sell eggs one by one. Perhaps it's the same guy who brought a live chicken in the other comment. They randomly found a chicken in the room. I worked as a concierge for an upscale hotel, so naturally, because there wasn't a line for my desk, I fielded complaints regularly. One day a woman, very nice and patient, rare calmly explained to me that a 5-year-old opened the door to their bathroom and there was a housekeeper pooping in there. The housekeeper and the boy screamed so loudly that I had already gotten noise complaints from the adjacent rooms. Needless to say, that family got a free night and an upgrade. Open bracket. When you gotta go, you gotta go. We had a hotel room one time and checked in around 3-4ish, can't remember what hotel it was. When we walked in, one of the housekeepers was asleep in the chair. Apparently had taken a rest and checked out. For who knows how long. We woke her up when we came in the room. She was very apologetic and took her cart and stuff with her right away. We never said anything to the staff or saw her again. The room was all clean and set up, so nothing to complain about. If she is anything like the housekeepers I know, that was one of many jobs. Working double shifts isn't uncommon and many of those ladies work extra when offered. You are good people for not saying anything. Agreed. That lady needed that sleep. No one willingly breaks rules and jeopardizes their job unless they are desperate for some sleep. Not my story, but a friend was a maid at a cheap hotel in our university town. She has a bunch of gross and weird stories, but the most insane is when she came into work and found a full abandoned meth lab in the bathroom of one of the rooms. Her manager made her clean up a bunch of trash from the different ingredients and scrub chemical stains that must have been left by spills. Apparently the room smelled like a bad science experiment, or just normal meth, and the management refused to get any police involved. I imagine they believed it would discourage their regular clientele. I believe she quit very soon after. Had a teacher who was the manager of a Marriott in Germany for a while. She has wild stories. Once found an anaconda in the bathroom, wrapped around the shower curtain pole. Cold naked devil worshippers out of the pool at 3 AM when the pool closed and they refused to get out. They weren't even guests. Saw the janitor with a wheelbarrow, a hose, and a shovel. He went somewhere. Went to lunch and came back. After his lunch he followed him and asked what was up. He didn't speak good German and just said cleaning up African lady leg. Turned out some lady had jumped from the top floor of one side of the building. Hotel was kind of like an L shape. One side higher than the other, hit the emergency ladder on the way down and had her leg torn off before becoming mush on the roof of the other side of the building. He had shoveled most of her into the wheelbarrow at this point. Was just working on getting her leg unstuck from the ladder. Yep. Marriott has the best stories, honestly. People think because it's a nice chain, doesn't happen. I already added my comment lower, but just thought to this one to add. Was working overnight a few years ago and watched this dude walk a prostitute out the front doors to the driveway to wait for an Uber. He then returned and waited by the elevators until a woman who was obviously his wife came in from the parking garage. Took her up to the room without even changing the damn sheets. Oh, I got one. I was a night auditor though. This one starts out benign enough. My NA shift starts. And I have a small line. It's Saturday and we're near a couple of casinos. Not unusual. A very polite man checks in and rents a top level suite for him and his wife. I get him in and start checking in the next couple. Being distracted, I barely noticed the previous couple come back in. Only that the wife was partially obscured by the luggage cart, and I remember thinking to myself, that's an ugly woman. The night is quiet and I leave. I come in the next night to hear what unfolded after I left. The couple never came back down to check out and have not been seen since. When housekeeping entered the room, they immediately alert the FDM. Every surface of the room is covered in lube. The bed, the couch, the jacuzzi, even the mini fridge is covered in bottles and bottle of lube and baby oil. We know for sure it's lube because a dozen bottles are left in the tub. But wait, there's more. In addition to the lube, there is a rather large horse dildo left behind with thick black scuff marks and cracked down the center. My FDM, in her infinite wisdom, decides that they must have been junkies and this dildo is where they are hiding their needles. She decides to pick it up to open it, safety reasons. But when she does, all that falls out is a rather impressive motor that has been burned out. The icing on this cake comes when they review the security tape. The wife is clearly a man in a wig. It's a big burly dude wearing a cheap wig. Was on a youth trip with my church. Guys stayed in one room, girls stayed in the other. All us bored kids start looking around the room. Yeah, no, because kids. And we found a nug of weed under the bed. Super big find for a couple of church kids. We go to tell the girls what we found and they go on to tell us they did the same thing and found blood all over the wall. TLDR. Found weed and blood. Not me, but my husband used to manage a hotel in our town. Our town is very industrial in Alberta, that gave the town away right there, so when oil was high all the hotels were full of drillers and rig pigs and frack boys. So one morning, the housekeepers were cleaning a room and saw a 10 inches thick dildo with ribbed edges. I was an IT guy for a casino. Got a call that a guest couldn't get his device connected to the Wi-Fi. So I had to go up and give him a hand. Come to get his tablet connected. He's in the room. Older guy, 60 plus. Wearing a pair of gold booty shorts. He's got 3 girls, IDs meant they had to be 21. But they weren't much more than that, in there with him. Thongs and fuzzy high-heeled slippers. Topless. Shameless. They want to connect the iPad so he can play some video to go along with the game they're playing. Couple bags of toys and tubes of stuff scattered all around the room. 2 of the girls were getting impatient and already playing with each other by the time I got there. I've got my own kinks, so who am I to judge? Got his stuff connected. And they were able to get his movie. And got it playing on the TV in the room. He tipped me a small baggie of Molly and a couple $100. All in $50s. I took the money. And let him keep the drugs. Find out later. He was a VIP card member. And typically dropped $20 grand or so on the tables. I don't know about them. But I was working on a job in a shady part of Yakima, WA called Yakima. We were working 12-14 hours days. I just left my gun in the drawer and I'm not a cluttery person, so I just empty my pockets into the nightstand drawer every night. One day I left my gun, a roll of duct tape, some big zip ties and a knife in the drawer. When I came back, room was clean and the drawer was organized nicer. After that, the housekeeping lady would scuttle away upon my visage. I stayed at a hotel that hosted a Magic the Gathering tournament, was visiting Atlantic City. Only realized what it was as I played Magic a decade ago. In the morning as I was leaving, a housekeeper had a room opening and cleaning. He stops me and says, "WTF is this? Is it worth money?" I look in and someone has filled the bathtub nearly to the brim with Land's Commons. I can answer this one. Worked at a huge water park resort. I was doing a late shift at a time of year when the resort was almost empty. So, tired of knocking on all the doors, I just barged into the rooms. To clarify, I always knocked. But I was getting tired after 20 or so rooms without a guest. Close bracket. Come this room in the 4th floor. I walk in and there's an old, heavy guy feasting on a bucket of fried chicken. Lights off. In front of the TV. He stared at me for a couple of seconds and I apologized before he could say anything. Left the room immediately. I later found out that room was supposed to be vacant. I have no idea where he came from, why he was there or how he got there. Not a housekeeper, but I was a bartender at a Marriott hotel years ago. Along with regular bartending duties, I also delivered bar orders as part of room service. One night I received a typical order, wine, beer, from a room that called down to the bar. I brought the drinks to the room and was greeted by an early 50s man wearing a white robe. He greeted me and asked me to place the drinks on a dresser fairly close to door. As I went to place the drinks down, I noticed the bed had between 10 and 13 dildos laid out neatly along the foot of the bed. The sizes ranged from normal to horse. They were evenly spaced and all facing towards the headboard. While he was signing, I made my way to the door, and as soon as he handed me the book I smiled and said, "Thank you. Have a great night." He just smiled and that was it. 0% acknowledgement on his end. Not me, but my mom. She cleans houses and babysits for a living. It was a Monday, so she hadn't been to this client's home since Friday morning. Come Monday, she's vacuuming the master bedroom as usual. Next she goes down to vacuum under the bed when she sees the client's dead cat fully stretched. Like the cat's home team just scored a touchdown in its face. Eyes and mouth wide open like it had seen a ghost. My mom screams and calls the family. The father of the family comes and takes care of the cat while keeping it out of sight from his wife. True story, bro. My mom says she has more weird stories from this house. Let me know if y'all wanna hear them.